most of the people who have accepted. Thanks everyone for joining on a Friday.
Henning, are you speaking? We can't. Oh, sorry.
I hope everyone can you hear me?
I can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yep, we can.
So thanks everyone for joining on a Friday. Yeah, we have intentionally scheduled it on Workday 2, which is the, let's say, low season in the S&OP cycle. And so this topic we want to discuss today is around the S&OP planning or the revenue planning cycle for informatics. 3-4 months ago or so, we did the first session with everyone on the flow and the data sources, and we want to just repeat that message on which sources we are intending to use, as well as making sure that we have the right consolidation then into our S&OP planning. We also want to show you how we intend to run it going forward. Yeah, a minimal change, so one intermediate step, because what we have seen also in the last couple of months is that yes, we have the tools available to plan adequately. But at the same time, we also see that in the final S&OP planning, we have a mismatch with what we see in the underlying source data. For example, we see that in some districts, the EI revenue planning for the coming months was already lower, slightly lower than what we have in the orders on hand report from Vincent. And that's what we want to avoid. So we are looking for sharing. Yeah, so most of you will remember last time we want to discuss around what do we have in orders on hand and recurring revenue. What do we have then as an assumption in expiring contracts? And what do we have in any opportunity from the funnel in terms of book and bill, right? And that's going to be the three sources, same discussion as we had last time, but we want to be very specific on each bucket of these. And we also want to document that, right? Because so we will need to, in the discussions from a business side, we'll need to be very specific there. So that's where we have this group here together to discuss. And also to discuss and make clear that the ownership is very clear. So from an S&OP side, so from my team side, I'm looking for our team to steer the process, to run the template, to run the integration then into the S&OP file, and to, let's say, consolidate the data which is available on orders on hand and recurring revenue. And then for the MSS team, which we have on the call, so Dan's team, pretty much, we are looking for the inputs on which recurring revenue contracts which are expiring are renewing and how, and what assumptions do we take on book and bill, right? So that's the input we need from the business side. So and then so we need from this team for every district, we need once a month a meeting during the S&OP cycle where the S&OP team will reach out and will need the inputs from the modality leads in the districts on, okay, these recurring contracts are renewing, and this is the book and bill opportunity, so that we have all the three sources together. Good. So that's how that's what we want to reiterate and to just reinforce, because we have seen that is not yet perfectly working in the last 2 cycles, and so we want to just reiterate it now in August latest view, so that in September forecast we have a very good basis then and foundation. And any questions at this stage? Otherwise, I will hand it over to Gaetana and to Vincent in a second, who will just lead us to, okay, what are the sources, which we have also seen last time, and how do we want to consolidate the inputs? But I can just open it quickly for questions if anyone has already any first thoughts or questions.
Yeah, the only concern, Henning, is actually on the book and bill. So I think we've got like a million plus in there. But I think speaking to Dom and Philip, they don't have the resources to actually do that. So it's not reflected in Salesforce. So when we do upload the numbers in the Foresight, we cannot take that out.
Yeah, correct. That's fine, right? So indeed we can take it out in let's say from the Foresight source data, but then we will need to take certain assumptions these need to come from Dom and the team, right?
Right. Yeah.
And so Katana will just show you in a second which basic Excel template we want to use, where we should just capture the assumptions on book and bill, right? And then it's ultimately indeed Dom and Dan and team to align on, okay, this is the assumptions we want to take on book and bill. And we from I agree, we from the S&OP side, we just need to make sure that there's no double count with the data which we have in Foresight, right? Fully.
And the other one is of course some of the orders on hand, which we know is a risk and hasn't been reflected in PSA. That's the only time we would actually take it out as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Good. All right. Then let's get started. Then I'll hand it over to you, Katana.
Sounds good. Thank you, Henning. Let me begin by sharing my screen. So not to add on to another Teams folder, apologies for doing this, but we will be adding all of you into EI Sales MLM LV folder, which would be one place where you get access to multiple different spreadsheets as well as dashboard. Now, if I go into the August MLM, you will see 3 different sheets typically here, but without going into the 2 spreadsheets and just looking at that one, which is what you will see here. Now, this is a reiteration of the earlier message, but when we look at sales LV for EI, and I'm treating this group homogeneous with different levels of understanding of sales LV, but when we look at sales components for EI, there's 3 different parts to it. There's orders on hand and recurring revenue from orders that have been booked. There's book and bill, essentially net new orders, which will convert into revenue in the current year. And there's also revenue from expiring contracts, which currently do not sit in SFTC. Now, the third part, we eventually want to get away from that, meaning we want to make sure that all contracts that are expiring are already an opportunity in SFTC moving forward. But right now, we still see a few of those contracts expiring, not in SFTC, which is why we have 3 different components to it. Now, to make it easier, from a sales ops data curation perspective, for orders on hand and recurring revenue, we will use Winsense EI dashboard as the main source of data. And Pernie, to your earlier point, if there's orders on hand which are likely not going to get delivered, and if they're not flagged in PSA, it will inevitably flow into this, right? So we need to make sure that the PSA hygiene is there. It's a longer conversation, but that's a gap. That's a gap, and I want to flag that as a gap. So as long as our information in PSA is accurate in terms of when the project will get delivered, our forecast is going to be accurate, long story short, right? Book and bill and revenue from expiring contracts, you will see them as 2 separate spreadsheets here. It's fairly easier spreadsheet, so to speak, in terms of navigating. And this is information that you would have access to anyways, in a way, meaning it's all extract from SFDC. So it's all everything that's under best case FCN commit that you will see in SFDC as basically opportunities here, right? So for example, are we going to get revenue from XYZ opportunity? If so, validation, and how much of that revenue would coming in the current year. This is the part of exercise where the sales ops team would have to sit down with EI MSS. And that's the part which is more manual, but that's unfortunately something that we have to do either way.
And Ketan, just going back to that, I think this is where I think we need support from our sales colleagues. So if you go back there, for example, that the BNI shouldn't be there in the sales number, right? That's over 3 years or 5 years actually, right?
Correct. So this is a SFDC extract, right, Pernie? So
correct,
they'd have to,
Yeah, exactly. So that's why I think, some of these numbers actually then come inside, I think, Vincent, in your file. So we need to take that out. So I think the sales colleagues could actually put the last year of the contract, then that will actually help us when we extract. And it's in the future, because this contract renewal is already forecasted in Vincent's file as the contract is going to continue.
So maybe we take a step back, because the idea, Pernie, is to, you're far ahead in terms of book and bill process, but to say in the Vincent's dashboard, and let Vincent do the talking, is we look at only the forecast element. We don't go into the book and bill. So we do only orders on hand and recurring from that dashboard without looking at the book and bill. That way, we don't take that extended portion of this net new.
Okay, so again, question for you, Vincent. I think we were actually giving you the information on the contract renewals, and you are forecasting that as a contract is going to continue.
So I'll take the question at a later time, and I'll let Vincent take it. Because we haven't been able to do it well outside of ANZ Parni, long story short, which is why we're trying to find a pit stop. Let's just call it that way for now. Yeah. So this is a spreadsheet for net new. Need to know how much of this translates into revenue. And then the second one is mainly around contract expiry. So if we've done it well, essentially everything that's an expiring contract should already be an opportunity in SFDC. So we wouldn't have to look at the sheet per se, but we do still see contracts missing across a few districts which are not captured, right? So it's again an activity there where we'd have to do a sanity check as to whether these there's revenue coming from unexpected, let's just say, opportunities, right? So I'll pause there for a second, and before I hand over to Vincent, if there's any questions on the breakdown of the sales LV, happy to take it.
And maybe Katana, just go into one of the district tabs here.
Yes. Yeah.
I think that would be good because so nothing surprising or new here, but what we want to get to is that we have 3 categories in this file in the 3 lines, right? So we have one line, orders on hand, recurring revenue. This one will be a copy of paste, what Vincent will show you in a second, and that's S&OP responsibility. So we go into the file, we just copy over from what's there. If PSA is wrong, PSA is wrong, and then the data will be wrong, right? So that's where we need to just be careful and sanitize it, yes. But that's the data source and that's available. And the book and bill and the revenue from expiring contracts. So if SFDC is up to date, then no need to go into line 5, right? Then it's only line 4, actually, which is assessing what from SFDC will translate into revenue. This one will be the modality lead responsibility, and line 5, revenue from expiring contracts, depending on whether SFDC is updated or not. We have the list with expiring contracts where you can have a look at and say, okay, this ends in October, but we know we're going to renew in November, December, so you plug it in here. That's also where we need the modality leads as the input because you guys know the deals best, of course. And then the line here with the total will just be the copy paste into Foresight then. Right. So just to be clear and close the loop to what we discussed earlier. So that's the ambition.
Yeah. And Henning, if I'm not mistaken, we would want to, at least for the initial few months, we would want to get this copy back, right? Just to
correct.
Double
so
check.
We need exactly, because what we have seen and that's what we just want to avoid is that we see, okay, I don't know, the dashboard shows already orders on hand for 1.5 million in Q4, and the latest view is 1.3 million, right? So, or the dashboard is 2 million, and we don't know where the book and bill comes from. So we need to understand how risky or not risky and conservative our latest view is, and that's where we want to see the 3 categories. So that's why we have created, or Katana has created this file where we just say, okay, please put everything in here so that what is in Foresight at the end, we can drill down into the categories and we can understand. You can put comments here from the modality side, right, on what are the assumptions on book and bill. Just put it right next to the line, right, so that we understand what's actually in the latest view. And then we can also track later when it comes to the MLM preparation. We can also understand what has happened and what has not happened.
Sounds good. If there are no questions on this part, will pass it to Vincent. Vincent, could we do a quick walkthrough of the dashboard?
Yeah, sure. Okay, then I'll share my screen instead. Okay, let me know if you can see my screen and if the view size is good enough. Okay, so this will be the dashboard that we will be using for your forecast moving forward. So from this page, you can see a summary of everything basically. In order to see your so-called individual countries or VGs, you can click on the filters here, and it will actually brings you to the specific countries and VG. So from here, you can see the summary by month. which will be an easier view if, let's say, you select the timeline to year to date and December, they will include the full year. But for this exercise, I will suggest everybody choose the timeline to in the month. And then when you go to the by month page, it will actually show you individually each month what are the forecasts look like. So for example, in this exercise, you only need the OH, the sum of OH, and the sum of actuals, these two columns, blue color and green color. So for example, we are going to do August MLM this time. So from here onwards will be the figures that you require, which is in millions. So you can use this column. Sorry, it should be the blue color OH and the purple color service revenue. So you can use these two rows as your data input. And then just to double check on what is this graph currently showing, you can actually look at here. So the country is actually Indonesia. I will fix the filter here because it's supposed to tell you the business group instead of BU. So once you select the corresponding BG, you will actually pop up here to say, for example, I think now should be CI. Yeah. So you can choose the different BG by selecting the slices here. In order to make it easy, I think I will copy these two filters to this sheet so that you can just do, you can click it here. So from this sheet, you should be able to populate the, sorry, I think I opened the file as well. The Excel file that Kitana was mentioning. Yeah, and then,
yeah, and Vincent, just let's go maybe back to one where we have a bit more business. So the CI example for Indonesia. So, and then let's go back. So just that we are clear and that my team is clear. So if we go to the by month, so what we now have here is, yeah, for example, month of September, orders on hand, 71K, service revenue for 3K. So 74K is what we will pull into the other Excel file and put it into the first line of orders on hand and service revenue. Right. So that's the approach. So we can just 5 times click through the BGs, then we will have the numbers, we copy them into the service, into the Excel tab, and then we have the baseline of our forecast. And then step 2 and 3, we have the call with the modality leads, and we talk about expiring contracts renewal and around book and bill. So that's going to be the process pretty much.
Yep. I'll just quickly go through the contract expiry one as well, so that everybody is clear. So from this file, you can see individual countries are listed in different tabs. So from here, you can take a look at all the contracts that are going to expire within the year 2024. This I think I will say that use this list as a reference because I think the algorithm might not be perfect to show you, okay, these contracts are indeed expiring because some contracts are multiple years, which you know, the algorithm that I'm using might be flawed, but you can use this as a good starting point. So from this column, it tells you that in SAP, the contract is going to expire at which month. So you can use the contract number and also maybe the ship to check whether this contract is going to get renewed. Yeah, and then same thing, you can either filter by BG and corresponding BUs if you want. So yeah, that's pretty much it.
And this is actually a good point, which we need to be a bit careful. And there, I think also from the modality side, we'll need to have the inputs because there are contracts here which have an expiry in June, for example. So we need to also, and maybe they are not yet renewed, right? And so that is then also something where, so have a look at not only what's expiring August to December, but also potentially what has expired in the last 2-3 months and may not have been renewed yet, and we are just on the verge of renewing. So just be careful on the total there. Dan, you have your hand up?
Yeah, it's just a quick point, team. This is complex, but unfortunately, this is kind of the more complex bit of the sales forecasting. The main concern, if we don't do this part properly, is not noting that some of these are already in Salesforce and counted. So we just have to be careful of double counting. What you're looking for is ones on this list where it is likely to be renewed and the SFDC opportunity doesn't exist. There are some countries that manage their SFDC opportunities very well. They won't need to look at this list very much, right? That should be the target for everyone. But please, if you are using this, ensure that you're not duplicating items that are in Salesforce.
Right. Okay.
So Vincent, question.
Ernie?
Yeah, Vincent, question for you. So I think when we last discussed, we were going to actually extend this with the for the future periods as well, because I think we gave the information which contracts are going to get renewed. So are we not doing that anymore for ANZ?
Okay, so like I said, that would be ANZ practice, right? Because you guys, actually give me a perspective of, okay, which contracts are going to be expired. But if I were to extend this to the entire APAC, that means I will have to, like at least one person from each region will need to talk to me to let me know, okay, which contracts are going to be likely renew, and then I will put it into the forecast, which I don't know whether this is going to be feasible.
Oh, okay. So is there another file for ANZ, or do we use the same APAC file?
I will talk to you separately on this.
Okay, clear.
Yeah.
Cool. Okay. Thanks a lot, Vincent. So, so this is then the contract expiry, as Dan mentioned. Let's be careful on the double counting. So if there is good SFTC maintenance, there's no need to look at expiring contracts. And if there's not, then there is a need, right? So, but of course we are all intending to do the former, counting on your support there. Good. So these are then the elements. So after the call, I'll send around the links to the files for this month, so that everyone's aware. So we'll, so just not sure how close everyone is to the timelines. So the S&OP folks, we are working towards a timeline of having the revenue planning done by Workday 4, as always. So that is today's Workday 2. So that is next Tuesday. So by Tuesday, end of day, we'll need to have had the meeting on district level where we discuss on the book and bill and on the expiring contracts. And then my team will pull the information from the latest dashboard, where we'll send also the link around. So that should be the process until Tuesday, end of day. Any questions? We have still 5 minutes left, so please raise any questions or concerns if you have any.
Hi, Henning. Ketsan here. Just a quick one. Can we, because to me, accountability lies with who is not too clear. Who does what in that spreadsheet? So what does our demand planner does is just to go into the tools and take out the numbers and paste it into and then who will be reviewing the SFDC and make sure that it's corrected. And by when we are planning to have a plan to make sure that everything is clean. And who needs to do what? I'm hope it's just not sales ops alone cleaning up, or commercial ops is doing, or
So we own the process, right? So we will. So Katana, maybe if you share just the Excel sheet one more time.
Yeah.
Then let's have a look at that. So we own. So if we go to Indonesia quickly, so we own that the pulling of the data from Vincent's dashboard into line 3 of this file.
Okay.
And we own to schedule a meeting with Ferry, in which we show the list from the other file, which Katana just showed on the book and bill opportunity, and Ferry owns to tell us from this file what's book and bill opportunity. So we don't fill the other 2 lines. The modality leads need to tell us what needs to be filled in these 2 lines. So from the list we have in SFTC, Perry needs to tell us what goes into September, October, November, December in terms of book and bill revenue. So that's the responsibilities. So we pull what's available. We will not know what turns into revenue from the funnel, right? So that's where the modality leads will be in the lead. So line 4 and 5 here will need to be input by the modality leads, and we need to steer the process, right? We want to make sure that it's correct. So we steer the process. We set up a half-an-hour meeting, and then you guys go locally through that file and check on what can be book and bill and what can be renewed from expiring contracts. Is that clear, Kietan?
So can I say whatever is in the Foresight file today, when we receive it, we shouldn't be using the numbers at all. It should just be from this view.
Yeah.
Is that the correct assumption?
Yes. So that's the thought from Parani also earlier. So the SFDC sales conversion will never be correct for funnel, right? So we will. So what Parani does then is he puts everything from SFDC order intake, anything which has a sales date in 2024, you just move it out, right? I think Parani, that's your process at the moment, right? So and that's
correct.
what we need to, that's what we'll need to do. So indeed, what is in Foresight for revenue for EI will usually not be accurate, especially not for funnel. And that's what will then lead to override. But yeah, since EI is anyway a value entry, right? So
Yes,
then we can
yes.
just override that. Yeah.
So that to me, I would say I don't even touch the SFDC part, the RDD or the sales. I just manually override the numbers from this table, right? And then that is done for the Foresight part.
Exactly.
Okay.
Exactly.
Okay. Clear. Thank you.
And then make sure we get to see this table, right? That's the important point. Is then we can interrogate it and understand it, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
Clear. Thank you.
Any other questions?
So each month we're expected to complete this.
This table. Yeah. Yes, please.
So end of what, workday 2, 3?
Same workday 4.
Okay.
So that prior to the MLM meeting on workday 5, we would have this, and then we can look into how you integrate it in the slides we have right on the MLM meeting, or just go through it, right? That's also fine, and open it as a second source. So we would expect this one at the same timeline as the standard S&OP files.
Henning, is there a timeline for, let's say this file is only refreshed once a month? That means in between, if the modality wishes to review, does it get refreshed?
Yeah, that's actually a very good point. So this process actually doesn't need to happen on workday 3 and 4, right? So usually the data does not change that much. So if we want to do this meeting with the modality already in the last week of the month, yeah, perfectly fine, right? So then we just need to be a bit careful on what is in actuals and what's going to be in the next month, right? If we miss a certain implementation or so. But in general, this one is not something we need to push into the first couple of days. That can be, and once we have done this once, it's also going to be very much easier in the next month, right? Because then we have the data, underlying data. So this can happen at any moment in time. Vincent, just to remind me, how often do you refresh the dashboard at the moment?
Dashboard is on every Tuesday usually. So weekly.
Kietan, we can do it at any moment in time because we have the refresh on the weekly basis on existing orders on hand, and then SFDC we can also have. We will prepare it for the S&OP cycle to do the download of the latest SFDC, but you can also just use your local SFDC and already prepare this prior to the month-end closing, right? So that's no problem with that.
Yeah. So I'll just incorporate it into the last week of the month process where we will review, update, and then make sure it goes into Foresight file, right? Correct.
Exactly.
Okay.
All right. Any more questions?
It's just my clarity, because we put here everything is sales ops. Is it sales ops or planning team, Henning? Sales ops is not even in the call, right?
Yeah,
it's planning, right?
Correct.
Apologies for my not knowing what to write there. Yeah.
No, that's okay. That's okay. So yeah, so it's demand planners who own the foresight process. All right. Any more questions? Good. Okay. Thanks then everyone for joining. Let's run through it next week. Then let's learn from it and get better in September forecast. And then also, yeah, we can hopefully use the same structure then also for AOP planning at one moment in time, which will come up around the corner as well soon. So so then we should have a good baseline there on data accuracy, etc. Thanks everyone for joining. Happy Friday, and we'll talk in the coming days.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye-bye.
everyone.